Hello, welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. Ton Scherpenzeel is probably most well known as the keyboardist of Dutch progressive rock band Kayak. He's co-founder of the band in 1972 and the only member who has played on all of the band's albums. Mr. Scherpenzeel is a composer, lyricist, occasional bass guitar player, accordionist, and at times backing vocalist on some Kayak tracks. From 1972 through 82, when the band originally called it a day, the band released 9 studio albums. After this, Ton provided keyboards on several Camel albums. Then he joined a later incarnation of the band Earth and Fire from 1987 to 1990. Reforming in 1999, Kayak has released 9 more studio albums plus 3 live albums to date. And just last spring, coinciding with the 50th anniversary of the band, there was a farewell tour throughout Europe. Well, welcome, Ton.
Hi, Craig.
Thank you for joining me.
Nice to be here.
Well, take us back to the earliest days. Where were you born?
In 1952, so I'm 70 at the moment.
Okay, and whereabouts?
Well, I could say, well, maybe the name rings a bell. Hilversum. It's like the radio city of Holland. Radio and TV stations are settled there. It's like 20 miles from Amsterdam.
Okay, pretty close to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
All right. Was your childhood a good one? Fond memories?
Yeah. Fairly easy, really. As for music goes, I always like to improvise on piano, and I started taking lessons from a family member, my aunt, when I was 6 years old. But I had a problem reading music, and well, not a problem. I wasn't interested in reading music. I wanted to play. I wanted to improvise and play my own tunes or whatever you may call them. But it was a good thing to start learning the notes. But I've always liked to do my own stuff and to develop my own style. I didn't know that then, but well, it took a couple of years, and then I lost interest. And suddenly, like when I was 13, 14 years old, I was asked, I kept playing a little bit of piano. I was asked to play piano in a band, like a neighborhood band. And so I got playing again. And then I thought, well, it would be nice to take real proper lessons. So I took proper lessons, and what started from there, I met Pim Koopman, the co-founder of Kayak.
Mm-hmm.
We were living in the same neighborhood, and we started a band, and I was playing bass guitar at that moment. And we played in a band called Boulder Dash, and we played most of the Jimi Hendrix and Cream work. So we had a good guitar player who could fairly imitate Hendrix and Clapton, not the real thing, but he was pretty good. And Pim and I stayed together in other bands, and after, well, in 1971, 72, we recorded a lot of demos at our house, and from there on we developed Kayak.
Yeah, you're going pretty fast there.
Yeah.
I had a few questions.
Good, yeah.
From your earlier days, from your youth.
Yeah.
Were either you mentioned your aunt, the piano lessons? Were either of your parents musically inclined?
My mother, yeah. My mother comes from a musical family.
Okay.
They were classically trained, and teaching and playing in orchestras, cello and violin and horn. So the musical bit comes from my mother's side.
Okay.
And the lyrical side comes from my father. He was a journalist.
Oh, okay. So you have those genes.
I think so. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. What about your What about siblings? Were do you have
I
any
have two
siblings?
younger brothers,
Mhm. Or
and the brother next after me, Peter, he's
mhm.
2 years younger than me, and he also played in kayak. He
Okay.
started doing the lights and working as a road manager, but he played bass guitar, and he joined the band so often that after 3 years he could play all the songs. So when we were looking for a bass player, we didn't have to look very far. And there's a younger brother. He's 10 years younger than me, but we never worked together.
Okay. Okay. How about think back to some of the earliest music you remember hearing in the household? Did you guys have a radio or you know?
Yeah, it wasn't really much, but when music was played, it was like records. My mother had classical records, Bach and Beethoven and Mozart.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I can see a little bit of that influence. What about your the first single or album that you ever got or somebody bought for you? Can you remember that?
Yeah, but that was a Dutch single, and it's no use. But my first single that really mattered was "Twist and Shout" from the Beatles.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm sure that had a big impact on you.
Oh yeah. When the first time I heard them, it was like, wow. And not that I was thinking, well, I want to do that too. That came slowly, but it had a huge impact on me and my friends and everybody who was involved in music, of course. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, what about, can you remember one of the first concert that you attended?
I was never a concert goer, really, but well, yeah, there were local and national bands playing on school parties. You know, that was the first when I was 12 or so, and but they were mainly Dutch. And after that, I remember seeing Randy Newman. I saw Camel.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I didn't know then, but I would later play in the band. But I'm really not such a concert goer. You know, I like to play, but and while playing in Kayak, I saw a lot of other bands, of course, because we did a lot of festivals. We
Right.
played a lot with a Gentle Giant, for instance.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Did like 3 or 4 festivals that they were playing on as well.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to see them one time in concert.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But what was really nice, maybe to tell, is that when I was between 11 and let's say 16, 17, I had my own hit parade. I made my own list of
Okay.
my own top 50. I listened to stations like Radio London and Radio Caroline then. There were British stations, pirate stations, and well, they played all the music I wanted to hear.
Uh-huh.
So every week I had a top 50, which, you know, sort of distracted from my regular homework, really.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I spent more time in doing my own lists than my homework.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to that. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Well, try me on a few of the local or the Dutch bands, because the Motions, was that what you might have been into?
Yeah, it was a bit early, like 66. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. They were well known. Yeah, Motion, Shocking Blue, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wasn't there another one, the Shoes?
The Shoes. Yeah.
So there was some music scene in Holland at the time. Was it pretty up and coming, or was there a pretty good?
Yeah, it was like imitating America and England, but trying to be on the same level. But it's difficult when you're in a small country like Holland. You know, by then we had 13 million people here, and it's hard to make a living of a small market like that, especially when you're already in a niche market. But Yeah, the bands that you say that you name are the Shoes, Motions, Short and Blue, and later on Focus, Earth and Fire, and we played a lot with them. And I also played in Earth and Fire for a couple of years.
Yes, yes, I like Earth and Fire. Their earlier material, really some good stuff.
Yeah,
A good singer. You know, I like what is her name? She's a very good
Journey,
singer.
Journey Kaagman. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, what bands and artists did you like as a teenager?
I liked a lot of bands coming from England. I like the Beatles, I like the Kinks, the Who, the Move, and but also American bands. So I really liked the Rascals. Was one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but I was more into guitar. You know, I can't really play the guitar. You know, the usual 5 chords. That's okay. But I have more guitar favorites than keyboard favorites.
Okay, okay.
And,
Why do you think that was? You know,
I
you
don't know.
mentioned.
There's I think there's more emotion in guitar. It's, you know, it's I think it's like the most direct instrument is the voice. You know, you can't separate it from the body.
Right.
I think every instrument that directly touches the body, which is a guitar or a violin or whatever, because you know you touch the strings. That's the next step.
Right.
And the piano, you know, of course, you know, it can be wonderful. I mean, not when I play, but you know what I mean. It's for me a guitar, especially when it's played with emotion. It hits another string, if I'm clear here. But it's more direct.
Right. Right. I follow you.
Yeah.
Well, your earliest instrument was you mentioned playing bass.
Yeah.
Why not keyboards?
I also played keyboards, but for some reason, my first band, we played all the Jimi Hendrix stuff. I played bass in that, and after that, we played another band, Pim and I, and we had another piano player, but you know, he wasn't good enough. So where he couldn't play it, I would play the piano, and then he would turn to bass. And then you know, when we started our own band, you know, I wrote half of the material. Someone had to play it, so it was me who played the piano. But I prefer a bass guitar, really.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and when after I left high school prematurely, I started to study double bass, classical double bass. I had my training a couple of years, and but it was more like an escape route. It was my way of leaving school, and my parents they agreed. Okay, they said, okay, you can leave school, because I had no clue what I was doing there. I did nothing, and I said I want to do something. I want to be in the music. A musician, yeah, but you know, go to school, go have a study, you know. And I said, okay, well, I'm playing bass guitar, you know, I'm going to play double bass. So I started to play double bass, and I did that a couple of years, and I played in classical ensembles and things like that. And but I never had the intention of, you know, becoming a classical musician and start teaching other people to play the double bass. So when we started Kayak, we had so much work, I could leave the study behind and said, well, I'm a professional musician now. So and occasionally I would play the double bass. I even did it on stage with the band.
Yeah.
But I didn't train, I didn't study, so I lost my feel. And it's an instrument that you have to keep playing, because it's physically heavy.
Right.
You know, pressing the strings,
Yeah.
and you lose touch. So I still have a bass guitar. So
I was going to ask you to explain the difference, the appeal of the double bass versus just the regular bass.
well, there is, well, for me, I'm not I'm a bow player. You know, I don't do jazz. I don't know jazz. I can't play jazz. I have no connection with jazz. So, you know, as a how do you call that, pluck?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's not for me. So for the real thing, I would use the bass guitar. But you know, for bowing and in an orchestra, a double bass is fantastic. You know, I like the bass because, well, in fact, I like the melody and the chords and the bass equally.
Okay.
They're all as important. You know, there's for me, it's all they make the music together, and you need the bass, and of course you need the melody and chords as well. But for me, the bass stands out as it can, you know, have a counterpoint to the melody, and I'm always looking for that.
Okay.
It's a classical approach,
Right. Right.
not
Well,
intentionally, but yeah.
we'll talk. You started to talk earlier, and I asked you to go backwards. But talk talk about the early days of Kayak.
Yeah. Okay.
How the band came together, and
Yeah, well, Pim and I were recording demos, and we were always looking for a guitar player, and then suddenly we find somebody and a singer. And when Pim and I studied double bass, and Pim studied classical percussion on the same academy. And there we met the singer Max Werner. Max Werner in Dutch. And he also studied percussion there. But he, you know, in our free hours, we would go to a room that was empty and get behind the piano and play pop songs and, you know, do our own thing. And that's the beginning of Kayak. You know, on the music academy where we both all three studied.
Mhm.
In our free time, we improvised and played songs that everybody liked, and well, we developed our own songs, and then we recorded demos, and then we found the company.
Okay. And you played live early on to
No, not. We didn't really play live before we had a record deal.
Okay, you got that first.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you secure the record deal? Do you remember the details of that?
Well, somebody first we did a demo with a well-known Dutch producer, Hans van Hemert. You may have heard of him.
No.
You know, Mouth and McNeil.
Yes, yes.
Well, he produced that, and he was very well known in Holland. Lots of success, and he was interested, and we found him, and he recorded a couple of demos with us. Including our second single, Mammoth. And then Universal, then Phonogram said, no, it's not for us. And then Hans said to us, well, we can try a song of mine. And then we said, yeah, we're not interested in your song, sorry. But, you know, we want to do our own material. And so with that tape, we went to EMI and they said yes. Yeah.
Okay, so they were receptive. Okay.
Yeah, they had the idea that you know they could make this band happen, and of course it didn't happen right away, but they had a good producer in house, Gerrit-Jan Leners, who did the first 3 albums, and you know, we really connected. So from there on we developed, and in the meantime, also we played a lot. Then, you know, after when we first released the album and a couple of singles, and it was, you know, it was played a lot on Dutch radio, and even made the top 20. So we were like in Wonderland.
So there was EMI promoted you pretty well too.
Yeah.
That's always good, because you hear a lot of stories about bands that they don't get that much promotion.
No, we did get a lot of promotion, but you know, they found out that we weren't really that commercial as they hoped we would be. So after album number 2, they said, well, maybe try another studio, because we had the big studio for the first 2 albums. And so we went back to Studio 2 in the EMI studios in Haarlem in Holland. And which was a blessing in disguise, because then we recorded Royal Bad Bouncer, because of the limited possibilities of a 16-track in contrast to a 24-track.
Okay.
It was a benefit for the album, because we were forced, to be more simple, to be more direct, and less spending time on overdubs. And that's why I think that the especially Royal Bad Bouncer has a lot of energy.
Okay.
And because it was done, in bass, drums, piano, sometimes guitar, like a band. And the other, before we did it, a piano and drums, but later on the rest. It was much more like a band, and I think it sounds like it. So it was we didn't enjoy it when they told us go back to the other studio because you're costing us too much. But for us it was, in the end, it was okay.
Yeah. Was it a little bit the early days in the studio a little bit intimidating for you or for the other band members to be in a studio for the first time? Was it?
No, they're not intimidating. We felt like a kid in a toy store.
Okay.
That's what the result was, that we tried everything, and everything was, it was, well, it's the best expression, the kid in the toy store, an endless source of joy. And we thought we could do everything. We couldn't, of course, but we thought we could. So
right. And you mentioned the production, the producer. Was he pretty hands-on, or did he kind of help guide the group, or how did he
guide? Yes, he was like a soundboard. He absorbed our ideas, and he picked what was good, and what was not good he would try to eliminate. But he was very supportive and enjoying what he was doing. He liked the band, and he knew what was the potential of the band, and potential, and that was very good about him. And he had ideas. He thought of the barrel organ in Mammoth, for instance.
Okay.
Which was a funny story. A barrel organ, a Dutch barrel organ. That's big. It's big.
Okay.
Bigger than an SUV. It's like so. We had this barrel organ coming, and behind the car, because in Holland they are on the streets, and the guy, now they're going electric, but he had to turn the wheel.
Yeah.
Have a play, and we found out they couldn't get it into the studio. It was too big.
Oh man. Okay.
So they took all the microphones to the street.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, and because it was not electronic yet, the guy had to start, and after 5 seconds, it had the right tempo. So you can imagine how difficult it was to record.
Right.
Like 15 edits, I think, in those 8 bars.
What an idea. So you instead of taking it into the studio, you took the studio to the
microphones, and we tried to communicate, but it was quite difficult. Yeah, so you can hear the cars and the birds whistling on the tape. If you don't know it, but if you hear it separate, you can hear the birds and the cars that were passing by, and yeah.
Well, maybe that added some atmosphere to the song.
Well, you can't hear it now. They
edited that out. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, but that was a nice experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's the kind of stories, anecdotes I like to hear too. Well, okay. Now, once you got the deal and with EMI, then you started touring. You mentioned Gentle Giant. What other bands did you play with, or play alongside, or support?
We played with Focus a lot. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Earth and Fire as well. I have to look it up, but I remember Gentle Giant, because it was like 3 or 4 times that we played together, and I really admired them. They were amazing musicians, amazing, and it was like, what's happening here? And but yeah, commercially, of course, it was they had a little problem, I think. But they were very popular in Holland.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They've garnered a real big following over the years, and they still
Yeah,
have a strong following today.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely. Did you prefer recording or playing live?
I prefer creating.
Okay.
So yeah, I like to play live, but you know, not the hassle around it. And I like to build a song. I prefer recording. You know, writing it, arranging it, trying to build it to the thing it has to become. That's my motivation for doing what I do. And I like playing live, you know, but I'm more happy with the albums and with recorded music than I was with the performances, because
Right.
maybe for the others it was good, but for me it was never what I liked to hear.
Right, right. I think so. There are a lot of hassles and logistics you deal with in the live performances. I definitely understand that. I myself prefer the studio recordings mostly to the live recordings of any band. You know,
Yeah.
I understand the appeal, you know, with the live recordings, but if they go off too much different than the studio recordings, I'm not.
Well, you know, for our music, it's I think it's pretty useless to make live albums. We did a couple, but I can't hear them because the feeling you have when you play it, even, you know, it may be good or not good, but you know, when you think it's good, and that vibe and that energy, you never hear that back when you listen to it.
Right, right.
I don't know how it is for the audience, but as a musician, I never hear back what I'm hearing on stage.
Mhm.
And the excitement and the energy. It's when I listen to the album, the live album, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is something to be said about the connection that you make in a live performance, you know, too, on the other end of it, you know, that immediate feedback that you get from
Yeah, but that's at the moment that you're playing. But when you listen to the album,
right, when you go back, yeah, afterward.
yeah.
You're right, right. We'll talk about how you and Irene Linders met.
Oh, she was a music journalist,
Mhm.
and she interviewed me.
Okay.
And she kept on asking questions. Now that's silly, but yeah, we kept talking, and we made a date, and you know, that's how it happened.
Okay. And
Professionally, she
yeah,
interviewed me as a musician, and well, we stayed in contact, and then, you know, we got a relationship, and then we married, and then we had children, and then she started writing lyrics.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because, you know, I like writing lyrics, but at that time, you know, 77, 78, I had a lot of moments I thought, what I'm going to write about now, you know, and so I asked her, can you try? And she said, well, I never did it, but I can try. And so she wrote Ruthless Queen. That was her first lyrics.
Really? First time. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know, the song was originally, I called it, because, you know, I had when I make a song, especially in the older days, I start with a lot of blah 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 blah. You can't understand what I'm singing, but a couple of words, and then I had a title. It was called I Don't Want to Know. I don't want to know. But I think Ruthless Queen was better, although people in Holland think it's the wrong accent, but only people in Holland think.
Really, really. Okay.
Yeah, they think it's wrong, and I can't understand why they think that. But
Mhm.
you know, we had an American English producer, Dennis McKay, and he never said anything. And I still think it's you know, it's right, but I know only Dutch people think it's the wrong accent, so I'm not worried. Yeah.
Right, right. Well, you had several lineups in the band. What
Yeah,
would
you
you,
could say that.
looking back on, what would you consider the maybe the strongest lineup that you had?
As a band, I
Uh-huh.
think it was the lineup between 2007 and 2010.
Okay. Okay.
It was the most, maybe not individually.
Hmm.
We had better players on some instruments in other lineups, but as a band, as a unit, and as a it was a very diverse. We had 3 lead vocalists.
Hmm.
I mean, how blessed can you be?
Right, right.
And
Exactly.
so musically, I think that was the best lineup as a total.
Yeah, as a unit. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yep. Okay, well, I have to ask you about
Every sorry, but every lineup has its own strong points,
right.
and they always build on what's been,
Exactly.
and that can be an advantage, but also it can be difficult because people always refer to what's been. If you have a new singer, they refer to the old singer. I understand that,
Mhm.
but it's terrible for the guy or
The new one, yeah. Right, right.
but that's the way people identify, especially when they're younger. They identify with a certain sound and certain voice and a certain singer, and
Right,
everything that's been done later, it's a
right.
you can't win. It's a battle you can't win.
True, true. And I find people always need a point of reference, they always need to compare this to this.
It's
Well, this,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's logical, but
yeah,
I think, well, suppose that this singer would have been the first singer, and
right,
then he would have been the follow-up.
right.
What would they have said? So it's
Yeah,
I'm always trying to, and we've always had good singers, and some singers have this strong points, and other singers have other strong points, and I've always tried to exploit that. So yeah,
yeah. And just
they're
take them,
all good. For me, they're
take
all
them, yeah, take them at face value. Try not to, see the benefits and assets of each individual.
Yeah,
You're right.
but it's an ungrateful job to start with. It's you're always being compared, and fans, they can be nice, but fans can be awful as well.
Right.
They won't hesitate to tell you, well, he was better, and
Right.
sorry, are you still married to the same person? Are you still living in the same house? Do you still wear the same clothes? You
Right.
said no. Well, here's your answer.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. They
Life
sometimes
goes on.
they can
Life.
be more cruel than the critics and the writers. You're,
Oh yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah. Especially, they have a certain distance. But fans, they identify with yourself, and they feel like you owe it to them
right.
to do what they like. And I can relate to that. But what can I do about it? I can't do the same album twice.
No, you don't want to do that.
No,
No,
even
no.
if I wanted to, I couldn't do it.
No. Okay, this is where I have to ask you about this. Whose idea was the all white outfits that the band wore?
I don't know.
Can you remember?
I think we did a video clip for a Dutch TV program,
Mhm.
which was all black and white. And
Uh-huh.
I think that was the first idea of let's go all white.
Mhm.
And we used an orchestra. Well, it was miming a playback, and the orchestra was in black, and it was in color, but it wasn't really color because everybody was in white and black. But I think that was the starting point.
Okay. It really made you pop, really made you stand out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we weren't really progressive then anymore. I think people thought, well, for me, every song on this album or Phantom of the Night could have been a song on a previous album or on another album.
Right.
Just the way it is conceived. But basically, we hadn't changed, I think. But of course, we've also dressed up in glitter, and we've also dressed up later with jackets. I don't know why we did it. And I never really cared about it.
They're gimmicks.
It wasn't my cup of tea.
Okay. Well, you mentioned 1978's Phantom of the Night. It reached platinum status and it got an Edison. What's an Edison?
An Edison is a Dutch prize for record artists. That we have a prize for export. You have prize for most promising, and we had a prize for accomplishing, this. And it's also a prize that can be awarded to people that are up and coming. And I thought, well, it's easy to give a prize to a band that has just made a platinum album. Now we don't need it anymore. We could have used it last year.
Right.
So anyway, I have no idea where the prize is. Someone, our manager went bankrupt, and I think that's where it's.
That wasn't.
I don't know. It's
that wasn't named after. It wasn't named after Thomas Edison, was it?
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's the only Edison I know.
Yeah. Well.
Famous.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you, looking back, what is your favorite Kayak album?
Ooh.
Or one of your favorite, yeah.
I think from the first period, I think Royal Bad Bouncer is my favorite. And from the last period, the second period, I would say Letters from Utopia.
Okay. All right.
It has the best songs.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have made it in a one album instead of a double album. Mm-hmm. But I think it has incredibly strong material on it, and also with what Pim wrote and what I wrote, and the way it's performed. Yeah. But it's hard to choose.
Right. Yeah, I like Merlin. That's one of my favorites. I like the thematic, the theme approach to that. What at this point, I'd like to tell you my all-time favorite Kayak song is Anne.
It is. Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I love the minstrel feel to it, and it's a great melody, and that song stays in your head. It just for a long.
You like the medieval stuff we do. Okay. Have you heard my solo albums?
No, I haven't.
You should listen to them.
I need to. I'm going
because
to do
that's exactly where Anne started, and it's if I would go too medieval with a band, it would we'd lose it, and it wasn't the rock band we were, but it was part of our and also Merlin has those kind of songs, but I did it in extremis on my solo albums because I didn't have to care about the band or whatever. I could do what I like.
Then I'll really eat that stuff up then. I'll tell you. I will, if it's along those lines, for sure.
One is released in 2013, The Lion's Dream, and The Velvet Armor was released in 21.
Okay.
I really recommend it.
Okay, I will go back with you and I will give you my feedback on those as well. What the same year, you're talking about your solo albums, 1978, you released your first.
Yeah.
And get that out. Were you pretty pleased with it, the way it came out?
I think in hindsight, it was more a children's album. Okay. I did it then as a sort of sidestep from Kayak. And because I played that suite, the Carnival of the Animals, I played that on double bass when I was at the Music Academy.
Oh, okay.
So I thought it was a nice idea, to make a pop version. And it's not my favorite, but I think it's nice for children in hindsight. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, why did Kayak disband in 1982?
Have you got an hour? No. We had a lot. we had personal and financial problems, and it was better to stop. And when Max Werner had a #1 hit in Germany, he went away and he was on tour in Germany, and it was like, it's enough. There were too many. It was hard to get the band on one photo, and and there was so many. We had a manager who really made a terrible mess of it, and I took all responsibility. So it was, let's stop. Everybody hated what we were doing, so it wasn't fun anymore, and so we stopped.
Okay, I've heard that before too. When it stops being fun and you stop enjoying it, yeah, it's time to move on. Yeah. Yeah. Well, how were you invited to play with Camel? Camel's always been one of my favorite bands.
Well, Andy called me. Well, not directly. He had his manager call me, Max something, and he and I, Camel and Kayak had the same label, Janus, in America.
Okay.
And the A&R manager from Janus, he sent Andy, he sent Kayak albums, and he sent me Camel albums. So that's why we got to know each other. And then he was looking for a keyboard player in '84, and he called me. And he said, would you like to play with us, go on tour? And, he was almost finished with Stationary Traveler. And I said, yeah, of course. I love your music. And he's a fabulous, he's my favorite guitar player.
Oh yeah, he's great. Yeah.
He's fantastic. So I was honored and pleased, and I had no band of my own at that moment. So yeah, sure. So that's how it came to happen. And I did a couple of tours after that in 1985. I did a tour. I think in the 90s another, in early 2003 I did a tour, and I did a tour in 2015. I think was the last one.
Okay.
And I've always enjoyed it, because in my own band I was always, the one was responsible for everything. And it was, my own, the way I wanted it, but it was great for one time, to not have that responsibility and just go on stage and only have to play. You don't have to think about anything else, just play.
Right.
And sure, what we're going to play. And so that was, for me, the way I've never played in a band, because I was always the guy who led it.
Right. So you had that extra baggage and that extra responsibility. Yeah. That's
in Kayak, yes, but in Camel, no. So
you didn't have it there yet. Yeah. So you just play music for the music's sake.
Yeah, and as I said, Andy is a fantastic guitar player, so I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. But your involvement with Camel was a little bit limited because of your fear of flying.
Yeah.
Can you recall where that stems from? Where that originated?
No. I've always hated it. I did fly until '81. Then we went to America. We recorded in LA in the Village Recorders. We recorded the Periscope Live. And that was then we were in the studio or at the hotel area. I said to Irene, I'm not going to fly back. I found a Greyhound. I find a train. I take the boat in New York. And of course I didn't. But that was the moment I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I hate flying. I hate being locked up in this. I'm not afraid of falling down. No, because I go up to a lot of ferries, and to be honest, I think death on a ferry is worse than death on a plane. No, that's not my concern. I just, I want out. That's all. Right. So I thought I'm not going to do this to myself anymore.
Right.
And after that, I didn't do it anymore.
Are you a little bit claustrophobic too, as well?
Yeah, when I'm up there, yeah.
Okay, okay, got it, got it. I can see that then. I can definitely see that.
And I thought, yeah, you know, if for me it's not an issue. I just don't fly,
right, right,
and it's not worth it for me. Whatever is, you know, I'm not going on tour with any band,
right.
even if, you know. But it's, you know, it's a problem for my wife. She likes to fly. She wants to go somewhere far, she has to go alone. But yeah, well, I understand that and I appreciate that. But that's the way it is.
Right, 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 right. In 1984, your second solo album, Part of the Universe, came out with then Camel vocalist Chris Rainbow.
Yeah.
I've always liked his work with Alan Parsons Project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do I, yeah.
Yeah. He's got that distinguished voice. In fact, speaking of Alan Parsons, what a lot of the Kayak's music reminds me of is Alan Parsons. Do you get that?
Yeah, I can understand that. And the funny thing is that Alan mixed our first album.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I can see that. I
yeah.
can hear
well, he was a young upcoming engineer then in '73. So he did not have the reputation that he has now. But yeah, it was nice, you know, after to say, well, we've worked with Alan Parsons. And when I played with Camel, you know, I met Chris, and I already liked his vocals very much.
Okay.
And so I asked him for my solo. I was working on my solo album then, so I asked him, "Would you like to do? Would you like to sing on my solo album?" Yes, he said. So he came to Holland, and he's an amazing vocalist, and he was a very funny guy. So funny, you know. He stuttered.
Okay.
And but the funny thing is with the people that stutter is that when they sing, it's gone.
It's gone. It's gone.
But the funny thing in the studio was that our engineer also stuttered.
Oh, is that right?
So you can Chris, yeah.
So it'd be humorous to hear a conversation between the two of them.
Yeah.
Well, that's like that. That's like that. Reminds me of the country and western singer Mel Tillis.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stuttered. And
Okay.
Any kind of public appearance, you know, if he was on a talk show or whatever, you know, it'd be hard for him to get through it. But just like you said, the songs, he would, no problem. Talk about your first solo theater production and how that came about.
Yeah, our manager had a mutual acquaintance, and I was asked to write a musical and to a script from a Belgium guy in Ghent. It was my first experience. It was nice, and I've made a lot of those musicals after that, a lot better as well. But I've always enjoyed, you know, writing. I'm enjoying writing anyway. So whenever I get a chance and someone gives me the lyrics, I start. And but it's different from a rock band, of course.
Right. Right.
It's very important that people understand what's being said, what's being sung. It's like you lose what you're going to say if people don't understand it. So it's a different experience also in the theater. You know, it's when you're on stage with a band, you know, you rock and you clap or whatever you do. But as a singer on the in a musical, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. It's unless you're playing a rock and roll singer, of course. But it's always, you know, it's the music serves the lyrics.
Right, right, right. I think over the years you found that maybe being a composer is what you're best at, what you really enjoy.
Yeah. I think that's what I do best and enjoy most.
Yeah. Well, in 80, we mentioned this earlier. In 1987, you joined a revamped Earth and Fire band and played till what, 1990?
Yeah, we did a couple of years, I think 3 years. Yeah, Bert Ruiter, you know, the bass player. He died last year, and he asked me. We were already recording together, and he asked me if I would be interested in doing shows with Earth and Fire with another lineup, because the brothers Koorts, you know, who started the band, they weren't interested anymore. They were living actually quite close to here in France, and they're both dead as well. It's like everybody's going.
Yeah.
But and I said, yeah, why not? It's you know, we were playing for companies and festivals, and not a regular pop circuit, but I said, yeah, well, why not? It's I like the music, I like the songs, I like the voice, and why not? I feel at home in that kind of music, so I'll do it. Yeah. So we also made an album, and but after 3 years, that was it. We yeah.
Okay. Did you enjoyed that experience though overall?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a bit funny situation, because you know, Irene and I had written most of it, of the album, of the Phoenix album, but I wasn't in the same position as in Kayak. You know, Beth and Journey had position in Earth and Fire that Irene and I had in Kayak.
Okay. Right. Right. Yep. Yep. Well, in
It wasn't a problem, but it's just it's a different approach.
right. Right. Well, in 91, you released your third solo album under the name Orion. Well,
Yeah.
why did you call it Orion?
I don't know. The answer. No. I was asked to write the music for a TV program, a double program, which was a contest between very sporty guys in the north of Norway, near the polar circle. And they did all contests. I wouldn't say snowball throwing, but you know, they climbing mountains and whatever it was that well, very tiring anyway to look at. And but it had a lot of landscapes, so I thought, well, it would be nice, you know, to make the atmospheres and of the space and the whiteness and the whole atmosphere of the landscape that appealed to me. And they used it for the TV programs.
Okay.
And then Bert Ruiter and I, we made an album. Well, it was my album, but he co-produced it. And but I didn't really feel it was a solo album at the time. And so I thought of another name, Orion. And but it's funny that you mentioned it, because I'm thinking of a re-release at the moment and adding some another 1 or 2 tracks, and release it under my own name again.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be
Yeah.
yeah, that would be good. That would definitely be good and welcome, I think. Well, who are some of the artists that you've really enjoyed working with over the years?
Well, we've already covered a couple of them, and Andy is one of them. And I've been long involved with a Dutch cabaret artist. Cabaret in America is not the same as in Holland. He's the cabaret guy in Holland and Belgium. And at the moment we are doing his last tour. He's stopping. He's going to stop, and we did like 25 shows, and I wrote the music. And occasionally I played live as well with him, but just, you know, with a small combo, like a piano, a guitar, a violin, a small combo. And it's completely different from a rock band, but I enjoyed working with him. Joep van het Hek, Y-O-U-P.
Y-O-U-P, okay.
Yeah, but you know, it's a Dutch theater kind of tradition. He sings, he tells a story, and basically he's funny. And but you know, there are some serious notes as well. And we do like 4 or 5 songs every show, and a lot of underscores.
Okay.
So I've written a couple of hundred for him too. So and it's, you know, we work together since '85. I'm still enjoying it. So it's a long
Good.
time collaborator. Yeah.
Good, good. You know, it sounds like you have a good working relationship there. Enjoy
Yeah,
working with you.
absolutely. Yeah. But he's, you know, he's calling it quits in 15 months, but, you know, he's playing 4 times a week. And that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and you know, can you imagine? Like Holland is a small country, but you know, he draws a crowd of 1,000 every night,
Mhm.
and big
That's
name. And I'm
that's
happy. And I'm happy to have met him. And you know, Bert Ruiter, he was the producer of his first album in
okay.
'84. That's how I met him.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was hired as a studio musician for that album, and we got to talk. And he said, "Well, I'm doing my first a one-man show. Or are you interested in writing music?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna try."
Mhm.
So, and since then I've been, you know, this number 25 this year.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I was going to ask you about, to talk about your musicals and what you've enjoyed most working with those, and which ones that you've enjoyed the most.
Of those musicals.
Uh-huh.
Ooh, I've, you know, I've written 35 of them, and mostly they were family musicals and even children's musicals. But you know, listening to that material, I think I've never really, you know, don't bend for the audience, don't bow for the audience. You know, I've always made it too difficult for the, not too difficult, but I've always tried to keep a level of um, I never made it childish, if you know what I mean. You know, I think a lot of the songs I made for those musicals, you know, you can record them with anybody, like professional singers or even with a band.
Mhm.
I think that's what I liked about it. I could basically write what I liked, and
Right,
the lyrics that I got gave me inspiration
right,
to create things that I would never have done otherwise.
right.
Like for instance, they make a musical that's situated in Spain or whatever.
Mhm.
So I write music that has that atmosphere, and you know, that's the typical flavor of that country, and or whatever, or situated in the war or in the 20s, and you know, I learned from that.
Right.
And I fully enjoy that, you know, writing what I like to write, and uh, being paid for it as well. So yeah,
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think
yeah,
you have to, you mentioned kind of challenge the audience too, don't you? I mean,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, not
I've
making it too
never made
childish.
it.
Yeah,
Well, you know, I can't do otherwise. We as Kayak, you know, we as Pim and I, we could write songs and we could write music.
right,
But one thing we couldn't do is write a hit.
right.
Well, we did one, but the rest was difficult. Always, you know, it had to be supported and plugged and whatever. And with those musicals, I didn't need to think about, will this appeal to, will it sell? You know, does it serve the lyrics? Does it serve the purpose? Do people enjoy it? Do I like it? Yeah. So that's right. You know, not everything is perfect, and I never had to think about are we going to sell 100,000 albums?
Right. Yeah. I have to say that I admire you for breaking out of that mold, that, like you said, that,
I was
have
lucky
to be,
also.
yeah,
I was lucky, you know, I met the right people that valued what I did, and appreciated it, and gave me the chance. And I've been lucky in that respect. Yeah. Of course, you know, you have to do it after that, after you've been chosen. But I feel privileged. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, very good, very good. What were the circumstances that led to the reformation of Kayak in 1999?
Well, Pim and I had kept in contact, more or less. And we had made some demos, and we went to record companies, but nobody was interested in an old band. It wasn't called Kayak then. It was just a project. And then suddenly Max Werner, the original first singer, he heard about it. And then he called me. He said, "Can I sing him?" I said, "Yeah, why not? Let's try it, see what happens." And then, well, then we couldn't deny it was Kayak. It sounded like it was written in the 70s again. So then we found a record company, and but I never expected to be going on for another 22 years after that.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, at the time you just kind of got back together and didn't know what the future held.
No, we were just enjoying ourselves, and I said, "Well, I've got these songs. Let's do something." And then Pim joined in, and Pim was always a bit slower with writing, but I already had 10 songs finished, so he helped producing it, and then suddenly it became something when Max Werner joined, and then suddenly it was Kayak again, and we had to find another bass player and another guitar player. But that's what I like. It's unpredictable what's happening with music. Sometimes you can think this is huge, it's going to be great, and then not. And other times you're surprised that something suddenly takes off and happens.
Right. So a lot of the magic was still there, though.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, what happened, fast forwarding a few years, after the rock opera Cleopatra, The Crown of Isis in 2014, why did several band members quit?
Well, to be honest, you have to ask them yourself. I don't, because I think the story they told me wasn't true. But let's put it this way: the band had changed after Pim died.
Okay.
And the hierarchy had changed, and some people in the band wanted more than they had before.
Okay.
And I thought, no, you're not going to replace Pim. So sort of my leadership was attacked, and people wanted other things, and I thought, no, I don't want it. I want the what happens when a band is together for 7 years? Everybody is thinks that they own that place, and they forget that I've been in the place for 35 years already, and the ideas always came from me or from Pim or from Irene, but it was not their idea. So I said, well, because gigs were going down, I said, we're going to do another rock opera. And they thought, no, not again. We want to just play the clubs. I said, yeah, well, and then you got 12 gigs this year. I said, I want to do something special. We can do that, and I'm sure it's going to be great. Well, a lot of problems. In the end, they decided to do it. And then for some reason, I don't know, before the album was released, they said, we're going to stop. Great. Now all the audience is going to look at you because you're going to leave. Well, we have a product here, what we've been working on for more than two years. Thank you very much. But what could I do? It was the end, and we had big plans, but after this, I thought, well, so I waited 2 years before I started the new.
Yeah, you got a new lineup.
Yeah.
Yep, and you continued releasing material and touring as well.
Yeah. We had a great last 4 years, and but it's over now. I think we've done everything we could do with Kayak, and I've been doing it for almost 50 years.
Yeah.
And even the Stones are going to stop one day, so don't worry, Kayak can stop as well. And
yeah.
I thought this is the right time to call it a day, and I've been happy be more than happy, being in the band and being able to lead and write for it. But I don't think we're going to get any further than this. We're not going to make better albums. We're not going to make albums that sell more. We're not going to draw a larger audience.
You've done all you can.
I think so. Yeah. Time for to move on.
Yeah. Did you plan that to kind of coincide with the 50th anniversary too?
No. Anyway, we missed that for a couple of months. We should have waited 4 months. No. I don't care about those numbers. It's just, when I had my heart attack in 2019, I think that was the beginning of the realization that, life ends. Life can end just like that.
Right.
And of course, you have to do what you want to do, but I felt maybe this is not what I want to do anymore.
Right.
And I've given it all I've got, but time for something new. And I'm writing and working on new things. So
yeah,
and I'm sorry for the band because they wanted to go on.
Right.
But without me, it's going to be difficult, I think.
Yeah, the integral member that you were, the mainstay, it would be difficult. We'll talk about soldiering on. What's in the works? What's down the pipeline? What's on the horizon?
Well, I'm working on 1 or 2 new albums, but I'm still looking for a direction. I think one of them is going to be sort of follow-up of the last 2 medieval albums that you're going to listen to, and
I promise.
yeah. And the other one is probably I've written a lot of underscores for the Joop, intros and underscores, but they can be standalone music, instrumental, but they're very special. There's not songs, so I've written songs, but these underscores are instrumental, and I can use them and re-record them and maybe add something. So that's 2 projects on the line at the moment.
Okay. Well, I will continue to watch your social media and keep abreast of what's going on too, and in those areas, and your the music. Looking back on your career, what can you pinpoint as maybe the most rewarding experiences for you?
It's rewarding. I think, when you get the message from people that you've changed their lives.
Yeah. Right.
In the end, that's what it's all about.
Right.
If you did I have an impact on, if it's one person, I'm happy, but no, happily there are more. But that's very important that, that you communicate. Music is my communication. And if you made an impact on somebody's life in a good way, of course, and change their life for the better, I think, what more can you wish,
Right. I think that's so true, getting that feedback like that. Getting your post on your social media, I'm sure, emails from fans.
Yeah.
That means the world. I think that means everything. Yeah, I do. Go ahead.
No, people that you don't expect it from. I've just received a song from a guy here in France, and he very shy. And can I send it to you? And then he sent it to me, and my name is in the song. It was I was one of his big influences, and it's he makes music that has nothing to do with Kayak. So he sent it to me, and I said, "You're the first one that uses my name in a lyric."
Wow! Yeah. You really don't. You can't imagine how many people you touch with your music.
Yeah, that's true. You don't. I have no idea. With the internet, with social media and the internet, it's become more clear. But when it first started in the late 90s, I was amazed that somebody told me, I'm here at the dentist in Chicago and they're playing Kayak music.
makes you want to go to the dentist more often, right?
Well, not me, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that was another question you just brought up. One, what was the strangest place that you ever went that you heard a Kayak song? You know, like maybe grocery store, or was it, you know, any kind of place that you heard a Kayak? Can you remember? Can you think of one where you just said, "Wow, I can't believe they're playing one of our songs," you know?
Well, they're not playing our songs so often, but no, I couldn't tell you. No.
Okay.
No.
How about the oddest place, strangest that you ran into a fan, someone that recognized you?
Embarrassing situation. I was going to a sauna in Germany,
Mhm.
and then someone came up to me, and I was standing, you know, only with a towel, and he said, "You're Ton Scherpenzeel. I saw you with Camel." I said,
You said I wasn't dressed like this.
it was very embarrassing. Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought in Germany, you know, nobody knows me there, but
Right. What about interests outside of music?
sorry.
Interest outside of music. What interest do you have other than?
I'm looking in my family's history.
Oh, okay, origin, genealogy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's fascinating. I did a few years ago. I need to go back. I want to do the DNA test.
yeah. I'm gonna do.
Yeah, to where they can find out what you know your true origin. You know,
Yeah,
I want to do that. Well,
yeah,
I like that family tree. You know,
yeah,
history. I like.
yeah.
Well, and
It's a science. It's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It really is. It really is.
So
Um,
I found this family member, and I thought he lived there. He lived before Bach. He didn't know Bach was coming.
wow. Yeah, exactly. You know, and I just think of some of the people who have died recently that were like in their 90s or 100, you know, and I
Yeah.
think about all of the things that they've experienced throughout their lives, the
Mm.
technology changes, you know. Well, they're, you know, it's just, can you imagine, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we've only known a small percentage of those kind of things, but you know, well, you've known more than me, but you know, it's wow, interesting. And family, how about family?
Family. Well,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I have my two brothers and my wife and the family, but yeah, it's not a big family, but it's going well. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you get back to the fire.
Yeah, I
And
have to take care of it. Can you send me an email about when you're going to post it?
yes. Once it's going to be live, yes,
Yeah,
I will. I'll send you a
I
link.
I put a link on the social.
Yeah, and tell everybody.
Yeah,
And I appreciate it, ton. I really do. You spending the time and out of your schedule, you know, doing this. I really do.
my
So
pleasure.
so thank you and continued success to you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be in touch. All right.
Great, thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Okay, be nice.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.